Hello and welcome back to the next part in building Jimi Hendrix Harley Benton guitar. In this video we're going to take a closer look at the hardware. We're going to go through the tuners and the bridge and those parts basically. If you've seen my review of the kit when I first unboxed it and looked at it, you know that the bridge looks a little bit weird and has some issues that I want to take care of. And so that's one of the things we're going to take a closer look at. When it comes to the tuners, we're going to deep dive a lot. There are some things that you really can do to those tuners to make them better. And so I'm going to show you what those things are. And hopefully you'll enjoy this. Let's get started. Okay, so when you open the box that the hardware comes in, this is what you'll find. Small plastic bags with the parts in. Here's the bridge, here's the screws and the springs. Here are the tuners, the back plate, and the output jack. And basically, we're just gonna go through each bag and fix everything up. We're gonna start with the output jack because there's actually really just one thing to do and it's super quick. And so we might as well get it out of the way. Okay, so just open the bag and take out the jack. And it looks really nice at first glance. We have the connection on the back, which we're gonna remove. So we're just gonna take a scissor for now and we're gonna cut off. And you can cut off a little bit like this so that there is some wire still left on it, so that you know what connection is gonna go where. But this middle thing here, where the hole comes through, is connected to the black one, and that's ground. And as long as you remember that, everything will be okay. We're gonna take out the cable that comes with it. This is a very basic starter cable, the kind you get when you first start playing guitar. And you can keep this if you want to, it doesn't really matter. I know some of you are probably gonna say, no, this is horrible, you can't use it for anything. But you can at least use it for what we're gonna use it for in this build. So yeah, there is at least one thing. And that is, we're gonna take one of the plugs like this, and we're gonna plug it in and just look at the connection of the output jack and see how it feels in there. It's a little bit wobbly, so I'm gonna take it out and I'm gonna use my thumb on the back like this, just holding it, and I'm gonna press the metal sleeve on top here. I'm gonna press it in towards the middle. Super slowly and with not too much force. I'm not trying to break it off, I'm just gently, very, very gently just bending it forward a little bit. And you might not see that I've done anything, but that's just a tiny bit. You just need to push it a little bit. And then I'm gonna press it in, and now it's a lot tighter. And this is something you can do to all your guitars. If you feel like, oh, they're getting loose, you don't necessarily need to replace the jack immediately. I mean, after doing this that I'm showing you now 10 times, maybe this part will be weakened and break off. But before that happens, you can at least press this back a little bit. And I want to get it to the point where it's a little bit hard to pull out, because you don't want to step on a cable or anything like that. So, and just pull it out and keep pressing it forward and pulling it in. And that's all we're gonna do to the jack. We don't have any issues otherwise. It's been bent back a little bit, it's a little bit tighter, get a little bit more solid connection. This is one of those parts that you can easily switch out for higher grade, something with nicer quality. But we're not changing anything out on this guitar. So we put this back in the bag and we seal it up, and we can put these cables to the side and use for something else down the line, because we're not gonna need them anymore. And we're just gonna go on to the next bag. Okay, so here is the trem, and we take it out of the bag, or at least try to, and we'll put it back in the bag when we're done with it. And it has some blemishes on the top here. It's not perfect, but it doesn't really matter. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna work on this side here. It's very rough it's like I can actually use this as a file. You've already seen me do that, but just to show you again, here is a stick, and I'll just move it across here a couple of times. And as you maybe can see, actually you can't see because I wasn't in frame, I can sand it down. And I don't know if you can see this on the stick. I wasn't really even putting that much force into this. You can see how the top has been all sanded down. So it could actually be a nice file. You could actually cut this part off and have a tiny little file. So I mean, it would actually be a nice file because it has a very random pattern, so you don't get that many scratch marks. But we're gonna put this on the guitar, and so I'm gonna take and I'm gonna remove this, and it's gonna be super quick. I'm just gonna show you how I do it, and then we'll move on to the next thing we need to fix on this. Okay, so here I have my belt sander, and all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold this up to this and move it across to sand this down. And I'm just gonna go so far that these sharp edges here disappear. So it will only take a couple of seconds to do. I don't know if you can see that it's basically all gone. There's still a little left, but there is no sharpness to it. Okay, so you'll get this kit with the guitar, and in it you'll find one of these little wrenches that you're supposed to use to adjust the saddles. And I've taken one of those and I've put a little hand on it. Just in case you're curious what I'm using. It's just because I think this is a nicer tool for this particular work. If I move these, they move really, really easy, and you don't want that. You want them to be hard to move. Like, this is too much. It's too much. If I set up the guitar with them this easy to move and this easy to lose, the vibration of playing the guitar for a couple of hours will change the height of the strings a lot, because it's just like these are too easy to move. I'm putting no force in this at all. I'm barely doing anything, and I can just unscrew these like nothing. And so if I was to maybe play a gig, you know, if I ever get to do that again in my life, I wouldn't be able to play this guitar with this trim the way it is right now on stage, because a couple of songs in, these would start falling out. Like, it's just too many vibrations. That's basically what you have to think about when you're building guitars. You know, like you want to create vibration, but you want to work against vibrations to make sure everything is super solid and can't move. And you know, that's something you have to deal with inexpensive guitars. I'm gonna take all of these out, and then we're gonna move on to the next part. You just unscrew them like this. You see, I can use my hand for this. Okay, so we've taken them all out. I've put one back in, as you might be able to see. And yeah, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take one of these and put it on our tool, like so. So we have it ready. And then we're gonna take some plumber's tape. Now, this is super thin, and it's used to isolate plumbing so that water in your pipes won't move around. And we're just gonna super gently, we're gonna wrap around it, and we're just gonna take one pass because we're not gonna need more than this. And then we're just gonna squeeze it tightly around, and we're gonna cut off the excess like so, and just roll it between our fingers a little bit, and now it looks all white. And then we can screw it back into place, and you'll feel immediately how much nicer and tighter this is, and so it won't move like that. Now you get a little bit of white stuff off here, but we can go back in with a knife and we can cut around and peel it back and just clean it up and make it look neat. And if you have the opportunity, you can use, I have an even better version of this, but I can't find it any longer and I've run out of it. There is this thing that you can buy, it's for your car and it's called anti-glide, and it looks sort of like a glue gelatin thing, and you can just dip them in that and then screw them in and then leave them to somewhat dry, because it doesn't really ever dry, but it hardens up a little bit and it will have the same effect and it will be easier to clean up. This is a little bit fiddly to get to look nice, but it will work in a pinch, as I hope you can see. It's super hard to show when you guys can't feel the motion, but it's like it's much nicer now. And a roll of this stuff is like, I don't know, 2-3 euros, I don't know, something like that. It's not expensive at least, and you can use it for a lot of things, like for example actual plumbing. So I'm on the last one now, and I'm just gonna show you again just to be extra sure that you understand. So I put it on the tool and I just basically roll it to wrap it in the plastic, like so. And then I cut it off and I finish the roll. And sometimes you need one layer and sometimes you need more. I have some of these that I actually needed to roll around 3 times just because they're pretty loose. And yeah, I also just want to take the time to say that this is when they are sloppily fitted together, but they do fit together. There are some of these where they've been stripped or damaged, and the best thing to do is replace them. I would probably have replaced these as well if it wasn't a challenge to actually not replace them. There are higher quality, more well-made saddles that you can find and bridges that you can find, and so, you know, that's always an option. But using plumber's tape, or if you can find anti-glide, are really good options. So yeah, get yourself some of this, and it lasts a really long time, especially if you're only using it for like guitar building, because you don't need it that often. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next part, which is this thing here. So we need to open it up and take it out. And if you want to keep this, you can do so. Here is the plate. It's a little bit smudged because I just put my fingerprints all over it. Can you see me in the reflection? There I am. Anyway, if we look closely at these holes here, you can see that there are sharp burrs inside of them. And the screws that comes with to hold the neck in place are not that high quality, so you can actually, like, by screwing them in, sort of damage them. So we're just going to clean those holes up super fast. I'm going to use this step bit, and I'm just going to put it in my drill, and then I'm just from the back going to slowly clean them up like that. Just pass them through enough to clean them up. So I don't know if you can see that the burrs are in there, in that hole, but if I flip it around, you can see these holes, and they're nice and neat and clean, and there are no sharp edges. And it takes a couple of seconds to do this, so it's time to talk about the tuners. Here we have a Charler tuner, and it's very sturdy and well made. Now these are obviously more expensive tuners. Some of them are probably even more expensive than the entire kit. But if I wiggle this, there is no give. And if I shake it and close to the microphone, there is no sound at all if I shake it. If I take this one, I can move this. I feel that there is some give, and if I shake it, I don't know if you can hear that, but there's just a lot of give in these. Now, obviously, I know that you know, and we all know, and everyone knows, that obviously nicer tuners is always better, and high quality is better than low quality, so there's no argument there. But we can upgrade these by going through them and making them a little bit better. We maybe can't get them to this level of quality unless we're super lucky and everything in here is just loose and they're actually awesome. But most likely we're not going to get rid of everything. So, but we can make them from maybe being a level 2 to maybe a level, I don't know, let's say 7. If these are like level 9 or 10. So, I'm going to show you how to take these apart. First thing is on the top we have a little screw here. You just have to put in a screwdriver, some pressure, and unscrew it. And take out the screw and put it to the side where you won't lose it, and then pull off the knob and put that to the side, and then you'll have 2 washers, and they are just there to make sure that metal doesn't scrape against metal. So we're going to take these off and put them on the side, the white one closest to the body and then the black on top. And now, as you hopefully can see, I can press this to the underside, so it's basically loose. You can pull it out. You might need to wiggle it a little bit to get it out, but there it is. And now we're going to take this back plate here off. You put this on the side and you can see in through the hole here the back plate here, and so you can come in with basically anything and you can pop it off like so. It might have been a little bit hard to see what I did there because it's kind of hard to film while you're doing this, but just go in from the side and pop it out like that. And you put this to the side. They are pressed fit, so you're going to press it back in place afterwards. So if your tuners are super loose, you need to tighten all the screws. But if it's stuck and you feel like it needs lubrication, then you just pour it in here. You don't need to take it all apart. What we're gonna do is we're gonna tighten this up, and we're gonna tighten it more than it was before, because as you can see, it's very loose. So yeah, we're gonna see if we can't, work out something that is maybe a little bit tighter by just, basically screwing this down as hard as we can. And if I move the screw now, most likely you'll see how the tuner moves as well. And my hand isn't in frame, god damn it. And so we need to just really hold on to it, and I like to use something like a metal stick like this so that I can poke it through the hole and basically lock everything in place, and then tighten everything down. Obviously this is loose because we haven't tightened that part down, but if I press it in place and I wiggle this, hopefully you can hear that it's there's still a little bit, but it's not as bad, and it's gonna get better. Now you could put in some oil if you wanted to. You don't have to. You can still put in oil that way, or you could put in some anti-glide on the screws. So I'm just gonna press this into place like so, and if you have a piece of wood or a piece of plastic that we got with the kit, you can press it up against it to just make sure we really get a nice seal again. And as long as you haven't tried to, like, I've seen this before, and this is why I'm telling you, don't do this. I've seen people come in with a knife and try to bend it up like this and pry it up. And the thing is, this thing has a very tiny little lip that it's like squeezed into, and it's held on by friction. So if you just put it on place and you press it down towards something like I'm doing right now, it will work. And if you need to take them out, you have to take this whole thing out first so you can get in from the underside. And just do that way, because I promise you it will be, you'll have a better time with your tuners if you do it that way, because as soon as you start getting like weird crazy little lips cracks or bent up pieces here, you'll never get them to really stick on, and you'll have to like glue them on or tape them on or something, you know. And at that point, like, you'll just, you know, you're gonna have to replace them. Like, that's what I see. We put on the white ring, and then we put on the black ring, then the tuning peg, like so, and then we take our screw again and we put it back in its place. And first we just hand tighten it so that we make sure that it gets in where it's supposed to go. And then we take our screwdriver and we just screw it in, and we'll get to that point where it starts to get hard to turn, and we'll just keep on turning, and we'll press the screwdriver in, because you really don't want to slip with the screwdriver, you know, something like this, because then if that happens, you'll strip the screw. And you know, these tuners are made of softer materials, so it's easier to break them. And now if I turn this key again, it's much tighter and it feels much stronger. And if I shake this, I hope you can hear, I can still hear some of it, but there's just a lot less. And if you see here, you can see how much it's sunk in, hopefully. It's like 2 mil or something, and it's just because it's so much tighter. And so, if you have tuners that you think you're gonna have to replace because they're so loose, and they look like this is how you take care of them. I did a video where I showed you all tuner shapes and how you oil them, but if you feel like you need to know how to take them apart, you know, just leave a comment saying that you want to see that, because it's not that hard to figure out. And I have like a bucket right here actually of a bunch of weird crazy tuners, and I could definitely take them all apart. But for example, if you take one of these tuners again, like, you have the same basic shape, they take them apart basically the same way. There's no real difference. I'm gonna stop recording now and just do this to all the other tuners. Just make sure they're all perfect and that they feel solid and strong. And I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so the next part that we're gonna take care of is the claw. Now, the thing is, and this goes for all claws, it's not just like inexpensive guitars. This is something I do to all my claws. If you look at them, they usually have a little tap in the middle like this. And you're supposed to pinch the ground wire under this. I see a lot of guitars where they just solder it to the top, or where they've like not even bothered with it. The worst part is when someone is ground to one of these, but you shouldn't do that, because that's where the springs are going. And you need clearance for those, so don't do that. But the thing is, sometimes I look at the guitars and the connection here is broken, and even though, you know, a cable is soldered to it, it's not actually really connected. And so what I do to fix that is I take a piece of sandpaper and I cut a tiny bit that is long like this out. It doesn't have to be exactly this shape, just something that is a long sleeve basically, or whatever you want to call it. And it doesn't really matter what grid you use. This is 240, but you know, it doesn't really matter that much. And I just put it in like a roll up like this, and I put it in to the sleeve like that, and I pull it away like so. And I put it in like so, and I pull it away. And I go back and forth, and I do this just a couple of times. So I just have no luck today. Except I actually just read a lovely comment that I got, so thanks for that. It makes me so happy when I get comments, because, well, at least when I get nice comments, but because, you know, I don't have that many subscribers, but you know, the ones that seem to watch my videos and rewatch them, they really seem to like them, and that makes me happy. So after a couple of minutes, and I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but if you look into that little hole, not this hole obviously, but that in the middle here, hopefully you can see there is a bunch of, that it isn't that nice looking, and that it's all roughed up. Hopefully, I don't know if you can see it, but anyway, that's what you want, and it's just because you want a really nice solid connection, and it's for later when we actually go to put in the ground. The rest of it looks still neat and nice, and we didn't sand the top or anything, and you're just supposed to put in the ground wire, and then, you know, the best thing would be if you took pliers and you just press this back together so that it really got a solid, nice, pinched up connection. And when we go to the assembly, I'm going to show you, and hopefully you'll see it. And yeah, so let's go on to the next part. Okay, so now I'm going to share with you something that I don't necessarily know if it matters. I know someone is going to ask me if I really do believe that this matters, and I don't know. I just don't. I think the details are important. That's the thing. One of the reasons why I build guitars is because I feel like I can spend a lot of time fixating on the small things that maybe companies don't. And maybe it doesn't matter, I don't know. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna spring the springs, I don't know what to call it. I have here a tool that I've never shown you in any of my guitar builders life hacks, and it's because it's fairly new tool. I haven't had this thing going on for that many years. It's just a piece of wood and another piece of wood that creates this little lip and a bunch of holes drilled so that I can push in these springs into the holes, basically like this. And I'm just going to put these three in it now. And I make a mark. And then I release it. And I put a screw in. So we're going to do it the other way around. Now that it is in, I can hold it up and pull it to the hole. And press it in, and it's neatly in place, and it's being pulled at. And it's just that I feel like when I hold these, they just feel very stiff and unworkable, I suppose is maybe a word you could use, in a way that I don't know if I like it. So I feel like the springs are supposed to be a little looser, but I just feel like there are guitars that have springs that are nicer, and I have to ask myself why that is. Why does it feel nicer to pull on them? And it's not just about, it can be about the springs as well. So something like that, and I'll let it sit like that for a couple hours, and then I'll feel them, and you know, if I feel like they're become a little bit softer, I can tug on them like this, you know, and just work them a little bit. And if I feel like they've, you know, feel a little bit easier to spring, I'll keep them. And if I don't feel it, I'll just move them back a little bit more and drag them out a little bit more. But be careful, because there is definitely a point where you will destroy them. The springs on the back of the claw is not made to always be taut. That's why I always tell people to block the trem off and not just tighten the springs all the way back. Because, yeah, they're supposed to be there to just react in a burst and not be used, you know, to always be under pressure. But, yeah, I'll just clamp them like this and I'll move them around like this for a bit. And I'll leave them for a couple of hours and I'll come back and I'll move them and I'll take them off and see what happens. And I feel like they loosen up a little bit, and I feel like maybe it helps the trem. Again, this is one of those things that I do, so I'm showing it, but I don't know. You do what you want with the information. Well, there you have it. I'm here with my springs still, trying to bend them and work them. But anyway, that's the end of that video. No, that's the end of this video. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you found something interesting. Maybe learned something even. I don't know. If you liked the video, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. That lets me know that you appreciate the videos and the work that I put into them. If you have any questions about anything I did, or you want to leave a comment about, like, maybe I'm crazy with my springs, you can do so too. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. Stay awesome and cool, and go and pull at springs like a crazy person, you know? You can be just like me. We can be friends. We can have a weird spring club. It's almost spring, you know? So, actually, by the time this video comes out, it will already be spring. Oh shit.